It's like they made this episode over a weekend, and the only resources they had available were leftover costumes from an Aladdin panto, the most boring script ever, and racism. Guess I'm wearing this shirt ironically for this one. This is a review of the Star Trek The Next Generation episode Code of Honor. If you have not seen this episode, and you don't want to know why pretty much everyone involved wishes they could take this one back, be warned. Spoilers beyond this point. There was never any doubt about this one. When I decided to do a worst episodes batch for the retro reviews this year, I had to do a little research on Memory Alpha, refresh my memory about a few things, try to decide which episodes from each series I wanted to do, but not this one. This was always going to be the TNG episode for this batch. I know there are other terrible TNG episodes, and I'll get around to those at some point, but Code of Honor cannot be denied, no matter how hard we try. The Enterprise arrives at Ligon 2, a beautiful blue world that looks a lot like Earth from orbit. Let's just stay in orbit, shall we? No need to go down to the surface, or meet any of the people, or, do any of this. Let's just... Can we not? We could just not. A deadly disease outbreak is currently threatening a Federation colony, and the only known vaccine against the disease is manufactured here by the Ligonians. But the Ligonians are a little temperamental, overly attached to their quaint customs, aggressive, pompous, violent. I mean, you know how they are. I don't have to tell you. Oh, sure, there are some good ones. I'm always the first to say it. But even then, well, you just need to know how to speak their language. And don't ever turn your back on one of them, whatever you do. I'm not prejudiced, by the way. The Ligonian delegation beams aboard, led by Lutan, with his right-hand man Hagon by his side. They exchange very formal, very respectful greetings with Captain Picard, and there's a little bit of an incident where Hagon tries to pass a sample of the vaccine to Picard, but Security Chief Tasha Yar steps up and insists on inspecting it first. Hagon's like, "Out of my way, woman! Carrying vaccines ain't woman work, it's man work!" So Tasha puts him on his ass and takes the vaccine from him. Rather than being angered or offended, Lutan is instantly smitten with Tasha, and honestly, same. Everyone reconvenes in the observation lounge, where Picard says to Lutan, "Since we noticed your society is a lot like Japan, only it's all black people, we got you an antique statue of a horse from China as a gift." Lutan's like, "Hey, that's great. Since we're all friends, can I see the holodeck? And can Lieutenant Yar show it to me?" The holodeck, I mean. So Tasha, Lutan, and Hagen go to the holodeck, and she demonstrates a program that lets her practice her combat skills against a computerized opponent, or, as Lutan describes it, a person without a soul. Hagon is skeptical about the holographic sparring partner. How formidable can a mere image be? So he steps to the hologram and gets his ass thrown on the floor again. Fortunately for Hagon, Lutan is too busy checking out Tasha to care that his bodyguard just got effortlessly handled for the second time in the last couple of minutes. Everyone returns to the cargo bay to bid farewell, and Lutan's like, "Oh, one more thing," and he grabs Tasha, and they all beam away. Picard just stands there like, I should try to get her back, I guess. They try to call Lutan, but he's not picking up. They try to trace the transporter beam the Ligonians used, but they can't. Data's like, their transporters are actually similar to Starfleet's, only they employ the Heglenian shift to convert matter and energy, instead of our preferred method of, "Why are you all glaring at me? Should I shut up?" I'll shut up. Picard orders Riker to fire a warning volley of torpedoes at the planet, but that does no good either. He turns to Troy like, "What's this guy's problem?" Troy explains, "I don't think they'll hurt Tasha. They're mostly curious. Like apes." Exactly like apes, yes. Also, I sense that Lutan is super horny for Tasha, but also he has strong feelings of greed and ambition. What primitive savages. If only we were permitted by the Prime Directive to just wipe them out and take the vaccine by force, but we're just too damn civilized. Picard solicits other comments, and Data pipes up like, "If I may, sir." One of the really interesting things about the Huglenian shift-based transporters are how they synchronize the spins of all the quarks in the matter stream by, God damn it, Data! Sorry. I also wanted to say that I did some research on the Ligonians, and they really value patience, so we should probably just wait. So they wait for Lutan to call. And so do we. While they wait, Dr. Crusher visits Picard to remind him about the urgent need for the vaccine and also to bother him about her very special son Wesley, who rode along with her on the turbolift. So he's just been standing there monopolizing the turbolift this whole time we've been talking? What if someone needed to use that turbolift? They can use the other one. Picard invites Wesley to sit at the ops station to keep Beverly off his back, and Data reports on some more research where he found that Lutan abducting Tasha is like the Ligonian version of counting coup, which is a term derived from a sad old dead language called French that was only ever spoken by stuck-up cowards. Picard's like, hey, I'm descended from those stuck-up cowards, so watch it, plastic man. Finally, after all of this fascinating and entertaining and definitely totally necessary conversation, Lutan calls and he's like, hey, I took your Lieutenant Yar to show what a boss I am, so what do you think? Am I a boss or what? Picard's like, yep, for sure. Major boss energy we're getting up here. Now that you've proven your point, can we have Tasha back? Lutan tells Picard, sure he can have Tasha back. Just come down and visit. So, over the objections of Riker, who is worried about the captain's safety, Picard and Troy beam down to Ligon 2, and they meet Lutan's girlfriend, Yarina, and Lutan invites them to a banquet later tonight where Tasha will be formally returned. They all gather at the banquet. Picard rises to make a few considered remarks. He says, good food, good meat, good God, release Tasha and give us the vaccine so we can get the fuck out of here already. But Lutan changes his mind. He says, actually, I want Tasha to be my girlfriend now. Current girlfriend Yareen is not happy with that, so she stands up like, I challenge Tasha to a fight to the death. Well, that escalated excruciatingly slowly. Picard doesn't want the fight to happen, but Lutan is pretty clear that if there isn't a fight, then he won't give up the vaccine. For her part, Tasha is confident she can win. Speaking in private after the challenge, Troy says to Tasha, you have to admit having a strong, virile buck like Lutan say he wants you is incredibly arousing in a primal sort of way. And Tasha says, well, yes, of course I got a tingle. Like all quote-unquote civilized white women, I fantasized over what it would be like to, hey, you tricked me into admitting I'm attracted to Lutan. Yes, but only for no reason. Picard has a chat with Lutan where Lutan lets slip that this whole abduction of Tasha scheme has something to do with getting Yarina's land, because on Ligon 2, only women are allowed to own land, unless they die in challenges and then their boyfriends get it, I guess. Geordi and Data talk about shaving and humor on the Enterprise, then beam down to analyze the weapons that could be used during the fight, and then there are multiple conversations about that. Tasha tries to talk Yarina out of the fight, but no dice. Data beams back up to brief Riker and Crusher on Picard's secret plan for the fight. And then, after what feels like about a week and a half, Tasha and Yarina fight on a deconstructed piece of playground equipment from my elementary school. Tasha wins, stabbing Yarina with a poison-tipped spiky glove. As soon as the fight is over, Tasha throws herself over Yarina's body and they are beamed up to the Enterprise, where Crusher gets straight to work reviving Yarina. Riker calls Picard to ask if they can have the vaccine now. Lutan's like, my girlfriend's dead, so sure. Then Picard has Lutan and Hagon beamed up to the Enterprise as well, and they walk into the observation lounge to find, to Lutan's shock and horror, Yarina alive and well. Oh man, when you unexpectedly run into your ex who you thought was dead after you manipulated her into a death match? Awkward. Lutan sees Yarina alive and says to Picard, if she's not dead, then the challenge never happened, and if the challenge never happened, the deal is off. No vaccine for you, and you are all banned from Ligon 2. 1 year. Picard says, no, actually Yarina died. We can show you the medical records to prove it. Dr. Crusher just brought her back to life, which was no big deal because, as you might have noticed, we're basically the shit up here. Not only that, but Yarina reminds Lutan that, according to their customs, mating agreements end upon death, which means that she is now single and ready to mingle. She immediately chooses Hagon to be her new fella, and since Hagon will now be entitled to rule over Yarina's lands, he is also the new leader of the Ligonians and gets to wear the fancy necklace. But don't worry, Lutan, you can be Hagon's right-hand man now. Unless you want him, Tasha. Oh, the guy who abducted me and treated me like an object and used me as a pawn in his plot to steal his girlfriend's property? No, I'm good. So the Ligonians leave, and the Enterprise warps away to the colony that's being threatened by that disease because I guess Hagon and Urena let them keep the vaccine, even though that minor detail isn't even mentioned at the end, and also they don't seem in any big hurry to leave, even though the urgent need for the vaccine was the whole reason they did any of this shit, but whatever, it's the end. Before I get into the reasons why this isn't just a bad episode, but an embarrassingly bad episode that numerous people involved in its production have disowned and described as the worst show TNG ever did, let me set the offensive racial and cultural depictions aside and just talk about the script and the execution of that script, because on that level, if you ignore the problematic depiction of the Ligonians, this episode is actually still the worst show TNG ever did. The setup feels underdeveloped. The pacing is shit. This is one of the most padded episodes of Star Trek I've ever seen. There are stretches of this episode that are so pointless, so perversely uneventful, that I wonder if they were used as writing templates for Season 2 of Star Trek Picard. Tasha gets abducted, and we get scene after scene after scene of our heroes just kind of waiting around for something else to happen, talking about what they would do or what they're going to do, but not actually doing anything. Then Lutan double-crosses Picard, claims Tasha as his new mate, Yarina makes the challenge, and we settle in for another prolonged period of treading water. Picard, Tasha, and Troy talk about nothing. Geordi and Data beam down, examine Ligonian weapons, report to Picard their findings on the weapons. Riker reiterates the danger of the weapons. During the fight, Urina's glove flies off and hits this guy in the audience and kills him to double underline the lethality of the weapons. I think I get it. Did you really need to hit the point of how dangerous the weapons are so hard? The fight happens. It's slow and boring and poorly choreographed. Tasha wins. Picard gives Lutan his comeuppance for the earlier double-cross by double-crossing him back by having Crusher resuscitate Urina, which I guess is kinda clever if you've never seen Star Trek before, but Jesus Christ, how could you possibly still give a shit about any of this by the time you get to the end of this unrelentingly dull episode? The writing is terrible, the character interactions all feel contrived and artificial, the acting is stiff. I love Picard's absolutely flat reaction to Tasha being abducted by Lutan. One of his officers has just been taken from the ship, and his response is to turn to face camera, slap his communicator, and say, "Picard to bridge, red alert," without a trace of emotion in his voice or on his face. I know this is very early in the series, only the second episode after the pilot, and everyone in the cast is still trying to get a handle on their characters, but that take really feels like Patrick Stewart saying, "Fuck this episode," and doing the absolute bare minimum to get that shot and move on. It's a rotten episode from top to bottom, but what makes it not just bad, but infamous is the depiction of the Ligonians, which is racist. There's no other word for it. We shouldn't deny it. We shouldn't look for an excuse. Some of the aspects of Ligonian culture seem vaguely inspired by East Asian societies, Japan perhaps, and the costume design reads Middle East by Halloween Adventure, but mostly Ligon 2 comes across as the planet of the black people. Every Ligonian we see is played by a black actor. And what are the defining characteristics of Ligonian society as seen in this episode? They are tribal, they are duplicitous, they are ritualistically violent, they are misogynistic, they are ignorant and superstitious, as evidenced by Lutan and Hagon's reaction to the holodeck. Do they also believe cameras steal the spirits of the people they photograph? Did they also return to Ligon 2 from the Enterprise and breathlessly inform their fellow Ligonians about the amazing rooms where people relieve themselves and bathe, and the water magically comes right out of the wall? I mean, they have their own transporter technology, but a hologram makes their jaws hit the floor? Okay. It's one of the most demeaning and one-dimensional presentations of an alien culture ever seen in a Star Trek show, and one-dimensional alien cultures are kind of a staple of Star Trek, you know? What makes the Ligonians so much worse than the typical lazy Star Trek alien monoculture is that they are so unavoidably evocative of real people whose real cultures have been stereotyped and essentialized and disrespected and caricatured like this for centuries. It would be unacceptable no matter what show it appeared in, but the fact that it's a Star Trek show makes it seem even worse. The show founded on celebrating diversity and inclusion. The show where learning about people who are different from you and respecting them and embracing them as equals is a foundational principle. Star Trek produced this episode. Perhaps we can wring some value out of it as a cautionary tale, as a reminder that no matter how open-minded or enlightened we fancy ourselves to be, we all have blind spots, we all have prejudices, we all have shit to work on. Personal growth is a lifelong project. If a show as proudly progressive as Star Trek The Next Generation can produce an episode as rancidly racist as this, any one of us, especially us white folks, and most especially us white cis hetero men, can fall prey to our unconscious biases if we aren't careful, and even if we are careful. The important thing is, what do we do after that happens? After Code of Honor, eventually, Star Trek The Next Generation grew and matured and got better. So should we. So, yes, hopefully we can take it as a lesson and learn something from it, but Code of Honor is still the worst single episode of any Star Trek show ever, and it's not even close. No other episode combines poor execution with gross bigotry and betrays the core values of the entire franchise as egregiously as this one. Those are my thoughts on Code of Honor. What do you think of this episode? Please share your thoughts with me in the comments. If you'd like to support this channel, and I sure wish you would, if you can afford it, you can do so by becoming a patron at patreon.com/Steve Shives, becoming a channel member by clicking the join button, or by making a one-time gift by clicking the thanks button, or via PayPal or Venmo. Links are in the description. Please join me next time as this batch of reviews dedicated to the worst episodes ever continues. Up next is Star Trek Deep Space Nine. As with TNG, there are numerous credible candidates for worst episode ever of DS9. The one I've chosen is not only a lousy episode, but a lousy episode to which I have a sentimental attachment. I'll explain next time when I review the episode from DS9's third season, Meridian. See you then. Thanks for watching. And take care, everybody.